The rain hammered against the glass of the penthouse suite, but the storm inside Amelia's heart was far more violent. She stood in the shadows of the hallway, her hand trembling as it rested on her swollen belly. Through the slightly ajar door, the laughter was unmistakable, cruel, dismissive, and intimate. It was her husband, Justin, the man she had loved for 5 years. But he wasn't alone. "She's just a vessel for the air, Sienna," Justin's voice drifted out, dripping with arrogance. "Once the baby is born, I'll cut her loose. She's too boring for a man of my stature." Amelia didn't scream. She didn't cry. She simply turned around, walked out into the cold rain, and dialed a number she hadn't called in years. "Daddy," she whispered, "it's time." Justin Thorne was a man who believed the world revolved around his bank account. At 32, he was the CEO of Thorne Tech, a company that had skyrocketed in value after developing a revolutionary AI for stock market predictions. He was handsome in a sharp, predatory way, with slicked-back dark hair and eyes that always seemed to be calculating the worth of whoever he was speaking to. He drove a custom Aston Martin, wore $5,000 suits, and had convinced himself that he was a god among men. To the public, Justin was the perfect success story. He had the money, the power, and the beautiful, docile wife waiting at home. Amelia Thorne. Amelia was 8 months pregnant. Her ankles were swollen, her back ached constantly, and she spent most of her days in the sprawling, cold mansion Justin had bought in the hills of San Francisco. To Justin's business partners, Amelia was a mystery. She was quiet, soft-spoken, and dressed simply. She never wore flashy jewelry, even though Justin tried to drape her in diamonds for photo ops. He liked her because she was manageable. She was a kindergarten teacher when they met, living in a small studio apartment. Justin liked to remind her of that. He liked to remind her that he had saved her from a life of mediocrity. "You'd be grading finger paintings in a basement if it weren't for me," he would say over dinner, swirling a glass of expensive Pinot Noir while Amelia picked at her salad. Amelia would usually just smile, a sad, tight smile. "I liked teaching, Justin." "You liked being poor," he'd scoff. "Now eat up. The press is coming tomorrow for the Expecting CEO feature. I need you glowing, not looking like a ghost." What Justin didn't know, what he had never bothered to ask in 5 years of marriage, was the truth about Amelia's background. He knew her father was named Magnus, and that he lived on a quiet ranch in Montana. Justin assumed Magnus was a retired farmer, or perhaps a failed rancher. He had never visited. He was too busy closing deals. He had sent a check for the wedding, which Magnus had returned torn in half. Justin had laughed, calling the old man too proud for his own good. He had no idea that Magnus Vance wasn't just a rancher. He was the founder of Vance Global, a private equity conglomerate that owned half the infrastructure in the Western Hemisphere. Magnus Vance was a billionaire, but the kind who drove a 20-year-old truck and wore flannel shirts. He had raised Amelia to value character over cash. When Amelia fell in love with Justin, Magnus had warned her. "The man loves himself, Amelia. He looks at you and sees a mirror, not a partner." "He's ambitious, Daddy. I can support him," Amelia had argued. To prove her point, Amelia had cut herself off from the Vance fortune. She wanted to be loved for herself, not her father's billions. She entered the marriage with nothing but her teacher's salary. And now, 5 years later, she was beginning to realize her father had been right. It was a Tuesday when the illusion finally shattered completely. Justin had called her at noon. "I have to fly to New York for the merger with Onyx Systems," he said, his voice clipped. "I won't be back until Friday. Don't wait up." "Okay," Amelia said, rubbing her belly. "Be safe." The baby has been kicking a lot today. I think he misses his dad. Right. Send me updates. I have to go. Click. Amelia sighed and set the phone down. She felt a pang of loneliness, but she was used to it. She decided to organize Justin's home office while he was away. Something to keep her busy. He usually kept it locked, but the cleaner had left it slightly open. She walked in, intending only to straighten the books, but then she saw it. His iPad was sitting on the mahogany desk, buzzing repeatedly. Ping, ping, ping. Curiosity, a cold and snake-like feeling, wound around her chest. She walked over. The screen lit up with a notification from Sienna, VP of Marketing. Sienna, the suite at the St. Regis is ready, baby. Champagne is on ice. Can't believe you told the cow you're in New York. We have the whole weekend in the city right here. Amelia's breath hitched. New York? The St. Regis was 20 minutes away in downtown San Francisco. He wasn't traveling. He was here. She swiped the screen. Justin, in his arrogance, hadn't changed the passcode since they met, 12:34. The messages unspooled like a rot. Justin, don't worry. She's so big and clueless she believes anything. Once the kid is born and the merger is signed, I'm filing. I just need the family man image for the shareholders a little longer. Sienna, you're bad. I love it. Hurry up. Amelia stood frozen. The room seemed to tilt. The baby kicked hard, a sharp protest against the sudden spike of cortisol in her blood. She wasn't just a wife being cheated on. She was a prop, a strategic asset to be discarded once the stock price stabilized. Tears pricked her eyes, hot and fast, but she wiped them away aggressively. She looked at the family photo on the desk. Justin smiling his fake smile, her looking adoringly at him. You think I'm nothing, she whispered to the empty room. You think I'm just a poor teacher you rescued. She picked up her phone. Her hands were shaking, but her voice, when she spoke, was made of steel. Dad? Amelia. Magnus Vance's voice was deep, gravelly, and instantly alert. He hadn't heard from her in weeks. What's wrong? Is it the baby? The baby is fine, Amelia said, her voice breaking on the last word. But you were right. About Justin. About everything. There was a silence on the other end, heavy and dangerous. Where is he? He's at the St. Regis with his mistress. He thinks I'm stupid, Dad. He's planning to leave me as soon as his merger goes through. Stay there, Magnus said. I'm fueling the jet. I'll be in San Francisco in 3 hours. No, Amelia said, a sudden calm washing over her. Don't come to the house. I'm done being the victim. I want to go to him. I want to see his face when he realizes what he's lost. Magnus paused. You're a Vance, all right. What do you need? I need you to buy something for me. Name it. The St. Regis Hotel. The St. Regis San Francisco was a fortress of luxury, crystal chandeliers, velvet carpets, and a staff trained to be invisible. Justin Thorne loved it here. It smelled like money. He was currently lounging in the presidential suite, wearing a plush white robe, a glass of Dom Perignon in his hand. Sienna, a striking woman with fiery red hair and a smile that promised trouble, was scrolling through her phone on the sofa. You really think she bought the New York story? Sienna asked, taking a sip of her drink. Amelia? Justin laughed, a harsh, barking sound. She's simple. She trusts me implicitly. Besides, she's too busy knitting booties or whatever it is pregnant women do. She has no head for logistics. I could tell her I'm on the moon, and she'd ask if I packed a sweater. Sienna giggled. You're terrible. That's why you're the best CEO in the valley. The merger with Onyx is going to make me a billionaire, Sienna, Justin said, looking out the window at the city skyline. And once I cross that threshold, I can stop pretending. I need a power couple image. Someone like you. Amelia. She's barely a footnote. There was a knock at the door. "Room service," Justin said. "I ordered the caviar." He walked to the door, feeling like the king of the world. He opened it with a smirk, expecting a waiter in a uniform. Instead, he found the hotel manager, Mr. Henderson, standing there. Mr. Henderson looked pale. He was sweating. "Mr. Thorne," Henderson said, his voice trembling. "Where's my caviar, Henderson?" Justin snapped. "I didn't pay $5,000 a night to chat with management." I apologize, sir. But there has been a change in ownership." "What are you talking about?" "The hotel, sir. It was purchased an hour ago, a cash transaction. The new owner has requested that the presidential suite be vacated immediately." Justin's face went red. "Are you insane? I'm Justin Thorne. I don't care who bought this dump. You tell them I'm staying." "I'm afraid that's not possible," Henderson said, stepping aside. Behind him, walking down the hallway, was Amelia. She wasn't wearing her usual maternity sweaters. She was wearing a trench coat that looked expensive, her hair pulled back in a severe, elegant bun. She walked with a purpose that Justin had never seen before. Justin blinked, his brain misfiring. "Amelia? What are you doing here? I'm in New York." Amelia stopped 3 feet from him. She didn't look at Sienna, who had come to the door wrapped in a sheet, looking confused. She looked only at Justin. "New York looks surprisingly like 3rd Street, Justin," Amelia said calmly. Justin scrambled to recover. The shock was turning into anger. "You followed me? You crazy, how dare you stalk me? Go home, Amelia. You're embarrassing yourself." "I'm not going home," Amelia said, "because it's not my home. It's your house, and I'm done living in it." "Oh, stop the drama," Justin sneered, trying to use his size to intimidate her. "You have nowhere to go. You have no money. You're going to waddle back to the car, drive home, and wait for me to explain why this is all a misunderstanding. If you leave now, maybe I won't cut your credit cards." Amelia laughed. It was a dry, humorless sound. "My credit cards? You mean the allowance you give me from the joint account I'm not allowed to access?" "It's my money!" Justin shouted. "I earned it. You're nothing but a leech." "Sir," Mr. Henderson interrupted, his voice firmer now. "The owner insists you leave." "Who is the owner?" Justin screamed. "I'll buy him out. I'll ruin him." "The owner," Henderson said, looking at Amelia with immense respect, "is Mrs. Thorne." Justin froze. He looked at Henderson, then at Amelia. "What?" "Correction," Amelia said softly. "The owner is Amelia Vance, my father. Magnus Vance just purchased the St. Regis chain, specifically so I could kick you out of this room." Justin's mouth opened, but no sound came out. "Magnus? Your dad?" "The rancher." "The chairman of Vance Global," Amelia corrected. "You really should have done a background check before you called my father a proud old hick. Justin. He just bought your favorite hotel for $300 million in cash because I asked him to." Sienna gasped. She knew who Magnus Vance was. Everyone in finance knew who Magnus Vance was. He was the shark that ate other sharks. That's a lie," Justin stammered, his face draining of color. "Your dad is a nobody." Amelia pulled a document from her purse and tossed it at his feet. It was a printout of the transfer deed, time-stamped 20 minutes ago. "Pack your bags, Justin," Amelia said, her hand resting protectively on her stomach, "and take your whore with you. You're trespassing on my property." "Amelia, wait," Justin said, his demeanor instantly shifting from aggression to panic. The gears in his head were turning. If she was a Vance, if she was that Vance. Baby, let's talk. This is crazy. Hormones, right? We can fix this. He reached out to touch her arm. Two large men in dark suits stepped out from the stairwell. They were Vance Global Security. They didn't look like hotel security. They looked like mercenaries. They stepped between Justin and Amelia. "Don't touch me," Amelia said, her eyes cold. "I'm filing for divorce, Justin. And unlike you, I'm not waiting for a merger. I'm doing it now." "You can't!" Justin cried as the security guards moved him back. "The prenup! You signed a prenup! You get nothing!" Amelia turned to walk away, looking over her shoulder one last time. "Oh, Justin," she said, a small, dangerous smile playing on her lips. "You wrote that prenup to protect your millions from me. You forgot to write it to protect yourself from my father's billions. I don't want your money. I'm going to take your company." She walked down the hallway, leaving Justin Thorne standing in his bathrobe, shivering not from the cold, but from the realization that he had just kicked a sleeping dragon. The rain outside the St. Regis was relentless, soaking through the thin silk of Justin's robe within seconds. He stood on the sidewalk, shivering, clutching a plastic bag containing his wallet and phone, the only items the security team had allowed him to grab before escorting him out. Beside him, Sienna was screaming into her cell phone, demanding an Uber, her mascara running in dark streaks down her face. "This is humiliating, Justin," she shrieked, kicking a puddle. "People are taking photos. Do something." Justin looked around. Passers-by were indeed stopping, phones raised, capturing the fall of the tech genius. He shielded his face, his mind racing. Fear was quickly being replaced by a cold, calculating rage. "She wants a war?" he thought. "She has no idea how to fight one." "Get in the car," Justin snapped, as a black SUV pulled up. Not his Aston Martin, but a standard Uber. "We're going to the office." "The office?" Sienna asked, shivering. "I want to go to my apartment." "We are going to the office because I need to control the narrative before she does," Justin growled. Once inside the gleaming glass tower of Thorne Tech, Justin went into crisis mode. He stormed past the confused night security, still in his damp clothes, and straight into his office. He pulled a fresh suit from his emergency wardrobe and dressed rapidly. He dialed Mark, his shark of a lawyer. "Mark, I need you to file a restraining order against Amelia immediately," Justin said, pacing the room, "and I need a press release drafted. Now." "A restraining order?" Mark's voice was groggy. "On what grounds, Justin? It's 2 a.m. "Mental instability," Justin lied smoothly. "She's pregnant, hormonal and delusional. She just had me thrown out of a hotel claiming her father bought it. She's dangerous to herself and the company. We need to frame this as a psychotic break." "If she's a Vance, Justin, you need to be careful. Magnus Vance isn't someone you sue lightly." "Magnus Vance is a relic," Justin shouted, slamming his hand on the desk. "He deals in cattle and railroads. I deal in the future. I have the Onyx merger tomorrow. If that goes through, I'll be worth $2 billion. I can buy and sell the Vances 10 times over. Just write the statement." Justin hung up and looked at his reflection in the window. He needed to get ahead of the story. He opened his phone and set up a camera. He was going to play the role he was best at, the victim. He hit record. "Hi, everyone," Justin said, his voice dropping to a somber, concerned whisper. He looked tired, which wasn't hard given the circumstances. I didn't want to make this public, but there's been an incident. My wife, Amelia. The pregnancy has been very hard on her. She's suffering from severe paranoia. Tonight, she had a breakdown. I'm asking for privacy as I try to get her the help she needs. I love her, and I just want my wife back." He posted it to Instagram and Twitter. Within 10 minutes, it had 50,000 views. Comments poured in. "Stay strong, Justin." Pregnancy hormones are no joke. Praying for your family. Justin smirked. The public was so easy to manipulate. He had neutralized Amelia. If she tried to speak out now, she would just look like the crazy woman he described. He turned to Sienna, who was sitting in the corner, scrolling through the comments. "See?" Justin said, pouring himself a scotch. "It's chess, Sienna, and I'm the grandmaster. Amelia is just a pawn." But Justin's victory lap was premature. At 6 a.m., the first crack in his armor appeared. His CFO, a nervous man named Arthur, burst into the office. "Justin, have you seen the stock?" "It's pre-market, Arthur. It's always volatile." "No," Arthur said, his face pale. "It's tanking, down 12%. "Why?" Justin demanded. "The video should have garnered sympathy." "It's not the video," Arthur said. "It's the vendors, our server suppliers, the logistics team, the cloud storage hosts. They all cancelled our contracts effective immediately." "What? All of them? That's impossible. That's a breach of contract." "They don't care about the breach fees, Justin. I just got off the phone with Amazon Web Services. They said they received a better offer for the server space we were using. Someone paid them double to kick us off." Justin froze. "Who?" Arthur swallowed hard. "A shell company, Vanguard Holdings." Justin knew that name. Vanguard was one of the many arms of Vance Global. Magnus wasn't suing him. Magnus wasn't going to the press. Magnus was simply turning off the lights. "Get them back," Justin screamed. "Offer them triple. We have the Onyx signing at noon. If we don't have server capacity, the AI demo won't work. If the demo fails, the merger dies." "I tried," Arthur said. "They won't take our calls." Justin grabbed his phone. He needed the merger. The merger was his lifeboat. If he signed with Onyx Systems, their infrastructure would replace what he had lost. He just had to survive until noon. "Get the boardroom ready," Justin hissed. "And make sure Amelia is barred from the building. I don't care if you have to hire the National Guard. She does not get in." The conference room at Thorn Tech was a masterpiece of intimidation, all glass and steel, located on the 50th floor with a panoramic view of the Bay Area. At noon, the sun was blinding. Justin sat at the head of the table. He had barely slept, fueled only by caffeine and adrenaline. Opposite him sat the team from Onyx Systems, led by their CEO, Robert Sterling. Sterling was a tech veteran, a man who respected numbers above all else. He looked at Justin with suspicion. "We saw the stock drop this morning, Justin," Sterling said, tapping his pen on the table. "And the rumors about your wife." "A momentary blip," Justin said, forcing a confident smile. "My wife is getting the best care. As for the servers, we are transitioning to a proprietary system. It's actually an upgrade. Once we sign this merger, Thorn Tech and Onyx will dominate the market." He pushed the contract across the table. It was thick, heavy with legalese. "Just your signature, Robert. And we make history." Robert Sterling hesitated. He picked up the pen. Justin held his breath. "This is it," he thought. "Once he signs, I'm safe. Magnus can't touch a multinational conglomerate." The heavy double doors of the boardroom swung open with a loud bang. Justin jumped up. "I said no interruptions!" He expected to see Amelia. He expected a scene. Instead, a single man walked in. He was in his late 60s, but he moved with the heavy, unstoppable momentum of a freight train. He wore a charcoal suit that cost more than Justin's car, but he wore it uncomfortably, like he'd prefer denim. His face was weathered, carved from granite, with eyes that were the exact same shade of icy blue as Amelia's. Magnus Vance. Behind him walked Amelia. She looked rested, calm, and terrifyingly beautiful in a white dress. She didn't look crazy. She looked royal. Who let you in? Justin shouted, his voice cracking. Security. Your security works for me now, son, Magnus said. His voice was a low rumble that seemed to vibrate the table. I bought the building's security firm this morning. Gave everyone a raise. They're very loyal. Robert Sterling stood up, looking shocked. Mr. Vance? What is the meaning of this? Sit down, Bob, Magnus said to the Onyx CEO. To Justin's horror, Robert Sterling sat down immediately. You know him? Justin asked, looking between them. Know him? Sterling looked nervous. Magnus Vance was the angel investor for Onyx 10 years ago. He owns 30% of my company. Justin felt the blood drain from his face. The trap hadn't just sprung. It had been there the whole time. Magnus walked to the head of the table. He didn't ask Justin to move. He simply stood so close that Justin was forced to step back. Magnus placed a single folder on the table. You called my daughter a vessel, Magnus said. It wasn't a question. It was an accusation. That was taken out of context, Justin stammered. It was a private conversation. There is no such thing as privacy when you mess with my blood, Magnus said. You thought Amelia was a poor school teacher. You thought she was weak. You were wrong. I want him out, Amelia said. Her voice was soft, but it carried across the silent room. She looked at Robert Sterling. Robert, the merger is off. Now wait a minute, Justin shouted, trying to regain control. You can't do that. I am the CEO of this company. I own 51% of the voting shares. You can't stop this deal, Amelia. You're just a housewife. He turned to Magnus. And you might own a chunk of Onyx, but you don't own Thorn Tech. I built this. This is my property. Magnus smiled. It was a terrifying expression. You're right, Justin. You own the shares. But tell me, who owns the debt? Justin blinked. The bank, Silicon Valley Credit. Wrong, Magnus said. Silicon Valley Credit bundled your high-risk business loans and sold them this morning to Vance Global Distressed Assets. Magnus opened the folder. Your loan agreement has a character clause, Justin, standard in high-level contracts. If the CEO engages in conduct that damages the company's reputation, the lender can call in the full amount immediately. Magnus pointed to the TV screen on the wall, where the news was playing. The headline read, Thorn Tech CEO caught on hot mic. Wife is just a vessel. Justin gasped. How? I released the audio, Amelia said, holding up her phone. The one you didn't know I recorded at the door. It's trending, Justin. Boycott Thorn is #1 on Twitter. Because of that scandal, Magnus continued, your company is toxic. You are in breach of your loan covenant. I am calling in the debt, $200 million, payable now. I don't have $200 million in cash, Justin screamed. It's all tied up in stock. Then I'm initiating a hostile takeover, Magnus said calmly. I will seize your assets, your IP, and this building to satisfy the debt. Unless what? Justin asked, desperate. He was sweating profusely. His empire was crumbling in minutes. Amelia stepped forward. She placed a document on the table next to the merger contract. Unless you sign this, she said. Justin looked at it. It was a divorce settlement. You transfer all your voting shares to me, Amelia said. You resign as CEO. You leave the building with nothing but your personal effects. In exchange, my father forgives the debt, and Thorn Tech survives, under my management. You want my company? Justin laughed hysterically. You don't know how to run a tech giant. I have a master's in business from Stanford, Justin, Amelia said coldly. I didn't use it because I wanted to teach kids, but I'm very good at math. and I calculated that you are worth exactly 0 without me." Justin looked at Robert Sterling. Sterling looked away. He looked at Magnus, who was staring at him with the look a butcher gives a cow. He looked at Amelia, the woman he had cheated on, the woman he had planned to discard. "If I don't sign," Justin whispered. "Then I bankrupt the company by lunch," Magnus said. "You'll be investigated for fraud, your assets will be frozen, and you'll go to prison for insolvency trading. And I'll make sure your cellmate knows you like to mistreat pregnant women." The silence stretched for an agonizing minute. Justin's hand shook as he picked up the pen, the same pen he was going to use to sign the deal of a lifetime. He signed the divorce papers. He signed the resignation. He signed away his life's work. "Good choice," Magnus said, snatching the papers. "Get out," Amelia said. "Amelia, please," Justin begged, his voice breaking. "Where am I supposed to go? You froze my accounts." Amelia looked down at her stomach, rubbing it gently. "I hear Sienna has a studio apartment," she said. "Maybe she'll let you sleep on the floor. After all, you're just a vessel for her drama now." Justin slumped out of the room, a broken man. But as the door closed, Amelia didn't smile. She grabbed the edge of the table, wincing in pain. Magnus was at her side instantly. "Amelia, what is it?" "Dad," she gasped, clutching her belly. "The stress. I think the baby is coming." "It's too early," Magnus said, his face paling. "It's a month too early." "He's coming now," Amelia cried out, as water pooled on the expensive boardroom floor. San Francisco Memorial Hospital was accustomed to high-profile patients, but it had never seen anything like the arrival of Amelia Vance. 2 black SUVs, flanked by police escorts that Magnus had called in as a favor from the mayor, screeched to a halt at the emergency entrance. Amelia was wheezing, her face slick with sweat, her hands gripping her father's arm with bruising force. "It hurts, Dad," she gasped, her eyes squeezing shut as another contraction ripped through her body. "Something's wrong. It's not like the books said." "I've got you," Magnus said, his voice surprisingly steady, though his heart was hammering against his ribs like a trapped bird. He scooped her up. She felt terrifyingly light despite the pregnancy, and rushed her through the sliding doors. "Help!" Magnus roared, his voice echoing through the lobby. "My daughter is in labor. We need a gurney!" A team of nurses descended instantly. Within seconds, Amelia was on a stretcher, being wheeled toward the elevator. "Sir, you can't go back there yet," a nurse said, trying to stop Magnus. "I bought the wing," Magnus growled, not breaking stride. "Get out of my way." While Amelia was being prepped for an emergency C-section, a different kind of drama was unfolding outside the hospital. Justin Thorne had arrived. He hadn't come alone. He had brought a camera crew from a local news station and his lawyer, Mark. Justin was in full damage control mode. He knew his company was gone, his reputation was in tatters, and his bank accounts were frozen. His only lifeline was the child. If he could secure custody of the Vance heir, he could demand a massive monthly stipend for child support. He stood in front of the hospital entrance, the rain plastering his hair to his forehead, looking into the news camera with wide, frantic eyes. "They kidnapped her," Justin shouted, pointing at the hospital doors where Vance Global security guards stood with arms crossed. "My wife is having a mental breakdown, and her father, a billionaire tyrant, has snatched her away. I just want to see my son. I have rights. I'm a father." The reporter, a young woman named Sarah, thrust a microphone in his face. "Mr. Thorne, rumors are circulating about an affair. Is that why Mrs. Thorne left?" "Lies," Justin spat. "Malicious gossip planted to discredit me so they can steal my company. I love my wife. I love my unborn child. I am being barred from the birth of my own son. Is this justice? Is this America?" He turned to the camera, tears welling in his eyes. a performance worthy of an Oscar. Amelia, baby, if you can hear this, I'm here. I'm fighting for us. Inside the hospital, up on the 4th floor, the reality was much grimmer. Dr. Aris Thorne, no relation to Justin, the chief of obstetrics, looked at the monitors with deep concern. Her blood pressure is through the roof. Preeclampsia has set in rapidly, and the baby's heart rate is decelerating. We have to operate now. Amelia was drifting in and out of consciousness. "Don't let him in," she whispered, grabbing the doctor's scrub top. "Please, don't let Justin take him." "He won't get in, Amelia," Magnus said, holding her hand, now dressed in blue surgical scrubs. "I promise." "The baby," Amelia choked out. "Save the baby." "Anesthesia," Dr. Aris barked. The mask went over Amelia's face, and the world went black. Down in the lobby, Justin's phone buzzed. It was Sienna. "Sienna, watching the news. You look pathetic. Also, my lawyer says if you're bankrupt, I can't be associated with you. Don't come to the apartment. I changed the locks." Justin stared at the text. His jaw tightened until a tooth cracked. "Everyone leaves," he thought. "Everyone betrays me." "Mark," Justin said to his lawyer, his voice devoid of emotion. "Get a judge on the phone. Emergency injunction, parental rights. I want into that delivery room. If Magnus Vance tries to stop me, I want him arrested for kidnapping." "It's a long shot, Justin," Mark warned. "Judges don't like interfering with medical procedures." "Do it!" Justin screamed, startling the reporter. "I am the father. The law is on my side." 30 minutes later, a fax came through to the hospital administration. A terrified hospital administrator ran up to the 4th floor where Magnus was pacing the hallway. "Mr. Vance," the administrator stammered. We have a court order. Justin Thorne has been granted emergency access to view the child. If we deny him, the police will escort him in." Magnus stopped pacing. He looked at the administrator, then at the security guards. He took a deep breath. "Fine," Magnus said, his eyes cold as ice. "Let him in, but not to Amelia. Take him to the NICU. The baby is out? Born 2 minutes ago," Magnus said. "A boy. But there are complications." The neonatal intensive care unit, NICU, was a world of beeping machines, sterile air, and fragile lives. Justin Thorne strutted through the double doors, adjusting his suit jacket. He had won. He had the court order in his hand. He felt a surge of power returning. He was going to walk in there, take a picture with his son, post it online to prove he was a dedicated father, and then sue Magnus for millions. He saw Magnus standing by an incubator at the far end of the room. Justin marched over, his lawyer trailing behind him. "Step away from my son, Magnus," Justin announced, his voice booming in the quiet room. Nurses turned to shush him, glaring. Magnus didn't move. He was looking down into the plastic box with an expression of profound sadness. "I said move," Justin sneered. "I have a court order. I want to see the heir." Magnus stepped aside slowly. Justin looked into the incubator. He expected a chubby, crying baby, a trophy he could hold up to the world. What he saw stopped him cold. The baby was tiny, shockingly so. His skin was pale, almost translucent, and he was hooked up to more tubes than Justin could count. A ventilator was breathing for him. His chest rose and fell in jerky, unnatural rhythms. "What is this?" Justin asked, his face twisting in disgust. "Why does he look like that?" "He was born prematurely," Dr. Aris said, stepping forward with a clipboard. 32 weeks. His lungs are underdeveloped." "Fix him," Justin commanded, looking at the doctor like he was a mechanic. "I need him healthy. I can't present a sick baby to the press. It looks weak." Magnus clenched his fist so hard his knuckles turned white, but he remained silent. He was waiting. "It's not just the lungs, Mr. Thorne," the doctor said gravely. "The baby has a severe infection. Pneumonia. It's septic. His organs are shutting down." Justin took a step back, as if the baby's sickness was contagious. "Infection? How? Amelia was healthy. Did the hospital do this? I'll sue you for malpractice." "The infection was congenital," Dr. Aris said, his voice sharpening, "passed from mother to child during the birth process." "See?" Justin pointed a finger at Magnus. "Amelia is sick. She poisoned my son. This proves she's unfit. The infection," Dr. Orris continued, cutting Justin off, "is chlamydia pneumonia." The room went deadly silent. The only sound was the rhythmic beeping of the heart monitor. Justin froze. His mouth opened, then closed. That's an STD, Justin whispered. "Yes," the doctor said. Amelia tested negative for all STDs at her first trimester checkup. However, she contracted it recently. Since she has been faithful and isolated at home, the medical deduction is that she contracted it from her partner. The doctor looked Justin up and down with undisguised contempt. "You gave it to her, Mr. Thorne, and because it went untreated, it infected the amniotic sac, triggered early labor, and is now killing your son." Justin felt the blood drain from his face. The Sienna affair. He had been careful, mostly, but there had been that one time in Vegas. He looked at the baby again. Suddenly, the child wasn't an asset. He was a liability. He was living proof of Justin's infidelity. If this medical report got out, if the court saw that he was the reason the baby was dying, he would be destroyed. He would be liable for millions in medical bills. He could be charged with reckless endangerment. Justin's survival instinct, the darkest, ugliest part of him, kicked in. "I want a paternity test," Justin blurted out. Magnus looked up, surprised. "What?" "I want a DNA test. Right now," Justin said, his voice rising in pitch. "Amelia is a liar. She probably slept with someone else. That's not my kid. I'm not paying for a sick, dying kid that isn't mine." "You want to deny your son while he is fighting for his life?" Magnus asked, his voice low and dangerous. "I'm protecting my assets," Justin shouted. "Run the test. If it's not mine, I'm walking out of here and suing you both for fraud." "Fine," Magnus said. "Nurse, swab the baby. Swab Mr. Thorne." The nurse did it quickly. "We can run a rapid panel. 1 hour." "I'll wait in the hall," Justin said, wiping his hands on his jacket as if to clean himself of the situation. "I don't want to be near the contamination." He walked out. An hour later, Justin sat in the waiting room. He had convinced himself that the baby wasn't his. It was the only way out. Amelia cheated, he told himself. That's why she was so quiet. That's why she hid her father. She's the villain. Dr. Aris and Magnus emerged. Magnus held a piece of paper. Justin stood up. "Well?" Magnus handed him the paper. 99.999% match, Magnus read aloud. "He is your son, Justin." Justin stared at the paper. It was a death sentence for his freedom. He was the father. He caused the sickness. He was responsible. "Okay," Justin said, his mind racing. "Okay, so he's mine. Fine. I assert my rights. I want custody. I'll take him to a private facility." "No," Magnus said. "You won't." Magnus pulled a second document from his pocket. It was old, yellowed paper. "What is that?" "The Thorne Tech Incorporation papers," Magnus said. "Specifically the morality clause you signed with your original angel investors. Investors that I bought out this morning." Magnus stepped closer, towering over Justin. "And this," Magnus pointed to the hospital room, "is the evidence of a gross moral turpitude violation. Infecting your wife and unborn child with a venereal disease due to adultery triggers an immediate stripping of all assets and, this is the important part, a forfeiture of parental rights in favor of the next of kin. You can't do that, Justin screamed. It's already done, Magnus said. My lawyers filed the motion 20 minutes ago while you were sitting here. The judge who signed your entry order? He just signed a temporary restraining order. You are a biological hazard to the child, Justin. I can fix this, Justin stammered. I have money tucked away. I can pay for the treatment. The treatment, Magnus said, costs $50,000 a day. It involves specialists from Switzerland. Do you have that kind of money, Justin? Or did Sienna spend it all on room service? Justin had nothing. His cards were declined. His accounts were frozen. He had $40 in his wallet. You have a choice, Magnus said. You can sign full legal custody over to Emilia right now. You walk away. You never see them again. And in exchange, I won't release the medical report to the press. I won't tell the world why the baby is sick. You can keep your shred of dignity. Justin looked at the NICU door. He looked at Magnus. If he stayed, he would be bankrupt, sued, and publicly shamed as the man who almost killed his son with an STD. If he left, he could disappear. Start over. Find a new rich woman. Where do I sign? Justin asked. Magnus held out the clipboard. Justin signed his name quickly, not even looking at the door where his son lay fighting for breath. Done, Justin said, dropping the pen. He's your problem now. Justin turned and walked toward the elevator. He felt a sense of relief. He was free. He didn't have a wife, a baby, or a debt. He was Justin Thorne. He would bounce back. He pressed the elevator button. The doors opened. Standing inside were 2 police officers. Justin Thorne? One officer said. Yes? Justin asked, confused. You're under arrest. For what? I signed the papers. It's a civil matter. Not this, the officer said, pulling out handcuffs. We're arresting you for insider trading and corporate embezzlement. It seems your former CFO, Arthur, decided to cut a deal with the SEC about an hour ago. He gave them everything. As the cuffs clicked around Justin's wrists, he looked back at Magnus. Magnus stood at the end of the hall, holding the custody papers. He wasn't smiling. He just raised his hand in a small, mocking wave. Real life isn't a merger, Justin, Magnus called out. You can't negotiate with karma. The elevator doors closed, sealing Justin's fate. The seasons changed outside the windows of San Francisco Memorial Hospital. Winter turned to a tentative spring, mirroring the slow, agonizing thaw inside the NICU. Justin's departure hadn't magically fixed everything. The damage he left behind was visceral. For 3 weeks, Emilia sat by the incubator, clad in hospital scrubs, watching her son fight a battle he never should have inherited. The antibiotics were aggressive. The specialized treatments Magnus flew in from Zurich were experimental and outrageously expensive. Magnus never left her side. The titan of industry, the man who moved markets with a whisper, spent his days sleeping in an uncomfortable hospital chair, reading children's books to a plastic box through a microphone. He's a fighter, Emilia, Magnus whispered one night, watching the baby's chest rise and fall on its own for the first time since they removed the ventilator. He's got Vance blood. We don't go down easy. Emilia touched the glass. He doesn't have a name yet. He needs something strong, Magnus said. Something that belongs only to him. No legacies of weak men. Leo, Emilia said softly. Like a lion. Leo Magnus Vance. Her father nodded, his eyes misty. It suits him. It took 2 months before Leo was strong enough to leave the hospital. The day they walked out, the paparazzi were gone. The scandal had moved on, as scandals always do, but the consequences for Justin remained. 6 months later, Amelia stood in the back of a federal courtroom. She wore a simple navy suit, holding a healthy, chubby 6-month-old Leo on her hip. Justin sat at the defendant's table. The transformation was startling. The expensive Italian suits were gone, replaced by an ill-fitting orange jumpsuit. His hair, once perfectly coiffed, was greasy and grown out. He looked smaller, hollowed out. The trial had been brutal. Arthur, the CFO, had provided emails, texts, and voice memos detailing years of fraud. Justin had been robbing Peter to pay Paul, inflating stock value with non-existent contracts to fund his lavish lifestyle and expensive affairs. Sienna had testified too, granting the prosecution the details of his spending in exchange for immunity. She didn't even look at him on the stand. The judge, a stern woman with zero tolerance for white-collar arrogance, read the verdict. Justin Thorne, for 15 counts of securities fraud, embezzlement, and wire fraud, I sentence you to 22 years in federal prison without the possibility of parole for at least 18. The gavel banged. It sounded like the closing of a heavy iron door. Justin didn't scream or fight. He just slumped. As the marshals led him away, he looked back into the gallery. His eyes found Amelia. For a moment, there was a flicker of the old arrogance, a silent plea for her to save him, to use her father's money to make this go away. Amelia just adjusted Leo on her hip. Leo gurgled, happily unaware of the man being led away in chains. "Say goodbye, Leo," Amelia whispered, turning her back on Justin and walking out into the sunlight. 1 year after the storm, the dust had settled. Amelia sat on the porch of the Montana ranch. The air was clean, smelling of pine and earth, a stark contrast to the sterile luxury of her old life. She was no longer just a teacher, and certainly not just a wife. She was the CEO of Vance Thorne Innovations. She had taken Justin's corrupted company, gutted it, fired the sycophants, and rebuilt it focused on ethical educational software. It was smaller, but it was real, and it was profitable. Magnus sat beside her, whittling a piece of wood, watching Leo toddle across the grass, trying to chase a golden retriever puppy. "You know," Magnus said, looking out over the mountains that he owned, "I got a letter from the warden at Victorville Federal Penitentiary today." "Oh," Amelia didn't look up from her coffee. "Seems inmate 4822B, that's Justin, has been assigned a job." Amelia took a sip. "What's he doing? Trading stocks with cigarettes?" Magnus chuckled dryly. "No, they put him in the laundry. He's scrubbing stains out of other prisoners' underwear for 12 cents an hour. The warden said he complains a lot about the quality of the detergent." Amelia watched her son laugh as the puppy licked his face. A genuine, deep smile spread across her own face, the first real smile that reached her eyes in years. She thought about the penthouse, the cold dinners, the lonely nights waiting for a man who viewed her as an accessory. She thought about the rain, the betrayal, and the fear in the NICU. It had been a long, brutal road through hell. But as she watched her healthy son play under the vast, open sky, Amelia knew she had finally arrived home. 12 cents an hour, Amelia murmured, feeling the warmth of the sun on her face. Sounds about what he's worth. And that is the story of how Amelia Vance turned her deepest betrayal into her greatest victory. Justin Thorne believed that wealth and status gave him the right to use people like disposable objects, but he learned the hard way that true power isn't about what you can buy. It's about who will stand by your side when the storms come. He traded a loyal wife and a beautiful son for a fleeting illusion, and ended up with nothing but 12 cents an hour and a prison cell. Karma may take its time, but it always delivers the final invoice. If this story of righteous revenge and a father's unstoppable love satisfied your need for justice, please hit that like button to support the channel. Share this video with anyone who needs a reminder that good wins in the end. And don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell so you never miss our next dramatic saga. Thanks for watching.